Greek tragedy. I know it's obscure. You say Greek, what do you think of? Like, we all have pictograms in our heads. You say, if I say Australia, what do you think of? Probably either an animal with little hands and a big fat behind and big legs like Michael Moore with a mousy head, right? But you don't even know what its name is. You think it works in Hollywood with Katzenberg, Matzenberg, and Ratzenberg, but it doesn't. Or you think of a kiwi fruit. Or you think of the national sport of Australia, which is puking on car fenders after getting drunk. But none of those things are actually Australia. So if I say Greek, what do you think of? What comes to your mind? What comes to, first thing I say Greek, what comes to your mind? Well, if you've had an education, probably the Parthenon, right? If you've had no education, I don't know what you think of about anything. But the history of Greece is interesting, especially World War II. Many of you don't know what happened in Greece and how Greeks killed Greeks. See, we're looking at massacres now occurring in the Middle East by Muslims, killing Muslims. The Greek Civil War of 1946 to 49, we're looking at the massacres being committed right now by ISIS, who Obama says is not Islamic. Well, their name is Islamic State, but I don't know how they cannot be Islamic. Nevertheless, yesterday they executed with machine guns 12 or 13 teenage boys for the grave crime of watching a soccer game secretly in a room in Mosul, if you can believe what they're doing to the world. And we're not knocking them off the planet. So that's very worrisome. But you say, oh, they're so evil, and they are so evil. But the massacre of Meligalis in 1944 is the most polarizing atrocity of the civil war in Greece, where communist guerrillas rounded up 50 nationalist soldiers and more than 1,000 villagers and butchered them to the last man, woman, and child. That is what the communists did in Greece to nationalists. Now, if you get to understand why the communists in America, who you call progressives, are the most vicious subpopulation in this country, and now you'll understand why they don't speak out against the massacres occurring daily against Christians and other minorities, including homosexuals, in the Middle East by their friends, the Islamists. Now you understand the rest of the story, why the communist left in this country is almost silent on the atrocities being committed by ISIS in the Middle East. So now you don't want to listen to me anymore, right? So, I really can't take it. Turn the show off. Turn the show off. I can't listen to it anymore. Oh, I may agree with him and I may not, but I don't want to hear it. I don't need to know that. I want to laugh today. So there's another story that caught my attention, which will appeal to your prurient interests. Nearly 50% of Japanese adults not having sex. Oh, now you're talking. Now we got the Howard Stern audience. Now we got the balloon men listening. 50% of Japanese adults not having sex. Tired and can't be bothered couples are failing to reproduce, worsening the nation's population decline. That's shocking. But wait, if you go to the bottom of the story, in a similar survey conducted in Britain, more than 60% of adults said they had not had sex within the past 4 weeks. The government has attempted a series of campaigns to encourage couples to have more sex. Well, in Britain, you know why they're not having sex. They're waiting for the government to give them a ticket, which could be taxed in order to have sex. That's what Robert, one of my producers, said. The only reason the Brits don't have any sex right now is because they're waiting for the government to give them like a coupon that if they punch that, they get a tax rebate or something. Or they have to be taxed. I think in Britain you get taxed now every time you have sex. There's a meter in every apartment, actually every flat. In a similar survey conducted in Britain, more than 60% of adults said they had not had sex within the past 4 weeks. Saying, well, it's not that prurient. I mean, it's crazy. Why is the West, which I conclude, Japan's a Western country. Once Mickey Mouse and hamburgers entered Japan, they were a Western nation. Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck. Once they moved Disneyland to Japan, they were a Western nation, and they stopped having sex. Now, that's what I blame it on, is like absurdity, stupid culture destroyed Japan. The idiocy of the worst of the West invaded Japan, and they stopped having sex. I'm not saying it's McDonald's and milkshakes that did it, even though the Japanese are not genetically capable of digesting milk products because they lack the enzyme to do so. I mean, it's a fact. Don't call it idiot, right? Racism, write it down, right? Media matters. Racism. Race to the racism. Asians and Jews, by the way, do generally lack the enzyme necessary to break down lactose. And the enzyme is known as lactase. And the reason is because over the centuries, as the Asian people evolved, they weren't eating dairy products by and large. So that's a fact of reality. I'm trying to tell you that. Nearly 50% of Japanese adults not having sex. tired and can't be bothered couples are failing to reproduce, worsening the nation's population decline. Where are they going to get their workers from? Who's going to build Toyota? Who is going to build Japanese products in the next generation? It's a great question. More than 20% of men aged between 25 and 29 expressed little interest in it. It's the porno. See, this is the hidden secret that they won't tell you in the telegraph.co.uk. Pornography has destroyed the West. In this way, I'm sorry to tell you, you're not going to like what I'm about to tell you. Here's where I'm coming from. I've given you two sides of an equation, and now I'm going to give you the summation of the equation, the conclusion to it, because it's been bothering me for the last 20 years. We have two opposing forces fighting in the world right now. We have the extremely religious Muslim fanatics who will kill to interpret their religion from a 9th century point of view, where they'll kill boys for watching soccer, saying that if you let them watch soccer, the next thing you know, they'll become transgendered in 1,000 years. See, I mean, it's like a slippery slope to them. If you let them watch soccer, the next thing you know, they're going to start dancing with women, and who knows what could happen tomorrow. They could become transgendered. So you got the maniacs in the Islamist movement, and then you have the West, which has no values left whatsoever. They've destroyed the church, and so therefore, once they destroyed the church, Satan entered the soul of man in the West. And now man in the West has no soul, in the sense he has no values. He has no values whatsoever. And that's why you have people like Harvey Weinstein attacking American values with his movies. Out of one side of his mouth, every movie he's ever made that I can remember has a gun in it, knifing, butchering, murdering, mayhem, and then he's going to produce a movie attacking the Second Amendment. Now, this is what I'm talking about. Or Seth Rogen. Hey, Abbott, right? Lou Costello of our generation. The fat guy in the team, the fat slob that we all laughed at, suddenly thought he was a leading man and he could say anything. He's now out of business. You know what I'm saying? So the West has no values so you got two sides fighting here. You got one side that thinks it has values built upon the Quran, and they're willing to destroy and decimate entire cities, killing hundreds of millions if necessary, according to a reporter who was just there with them, to impose their Sharia law on the world. And by the way, they're winning. They're doing very well indeed. Oh, yeah. They've conquered a lot of territory recently while our great president was in Hawaii and golfing and about to lie to us tonight about how rosy things are in the world. As he pulled our troops out of Afghanistan, they invaded. First they took Iraq, now they're taking Afghanistan. So what's going to happen when they conquer such territory? Who knows what they might do tomorrow? And while they're conquering in Afghanistan and Iraq, they're conquering in America through the media and academia, including Hollywood. They're conquering anyone who stands up to radical Islam as a racist. They've got it all ways working for them. And we have almost nobody on our side. So what is our side? What do we stand for? Tell me what the West stands for. What are Western values? What are they? Tell me what Western values are. Shooting junk at night and taking an enema in the morning, a coffee enema in L.A.? Sleeping with 15 people at night in the morning, doing some kind of a cleansing routine with an herbal bath? Is that our values now? Why everyone's into this detoxing? Because they know their souls are polluted. You look at Hollywood, the hottest thing is detoxing and coffee enemas. Like they discovered this. It's because their souls are rotten. Their bodies are filthy from their behavior. So in the morning they detox. So what are our values? What are Western values? Because I started with there's no sex in Japan. They're not having children. In England, 60% of people are not having sex. They're too tired. It's all about pornography and a loss of soul. And you see, civilization's dying. That's a mark of a civilization dying. So you're saying, Savage, are you arguing that sexuality, high rate of sexuality is a mark of civilization? Well, I would say a high birth rate is. But that's the opposite of the Western value. The Western value is kill the unborn baby, have no babies. Zero population growth is now running America. Planned Parenthood is now running America, and their mantra is kill the babies. Stop the babies from being born. So encourage no population as quickly as you can in every way, brainwash the children. Babies are ugly. Babies distort your body. Babies are expensive. Babies have colds. Babies have the flu. Babies need dentists. Live only for yourself. Buy a new pair of shoes. Whatever. Buy makeup. Girls just want to have fun. Boys just want to be dumb. Whatever. That's Western values. But, of course, don't encourage that amongst the invading populations from south of the border and from Islam. Encourage them to have 16 children families. And then, of course, you'll have the transformed America that Obama and the communist cadre has dreamed of their entire lives. They want a new America, a transformed America of serfs that they can manipulate for 100 years. So we're looking back at ancient Greece, and I'm asking, what are Western values post-Obama? Notice I add post-Obama, because the so-called liberal Obama threatens democracy itself. That's like, oh, God, wow, that's some statement, Savage. This man threatens democracy itself with his machinations against our freedoms. All I have to do is say NSA spying. Forget everything else. But let's go back to the bigger history here. So I said earlier, we have not a clash of civilizations as much as we have a clash of religions. Radical Islam is threatening to engulf the entire world, with a special emphasis on the Christians and Jews to begin with. But make no mistake about it, the Buddhists will be next. They've been at war with the Hindus for quite a while. They'll tell you a little few stories, if you know people from India, about their neighbors, who after having been given Pakistan wasn't enough for them, then they wanted India itself. But nevertheless, we'll put that aside. See, now we have an election to think about. I'll get back to this issue of, Western values, if they exist. Do they exist? What are Western values? Tell me. Oh, we have Western values. And you hear politicians say, well, our values. And you hear John Kerry, our values. What are our values? They say democracy. They don't know what it means. Obama's tried to destroy democracy in this country by every one of his acts and machinations. Him and Axel Grease, attacking conservatives with the IRS. You know the list. I don't need a litany. I mean, we got it. Those of us who've read my books, including Stop the Coming Civil War, there's 300 pages with references of attacks upon democracy itself by this cadre of worldwide madmen. So I want to go back to military history for a minute, the magazine. And I'm looking at the cover. King warrior crusader Richard the Lionheart clawed out a fierce victory at Jaffa in his fight against the Muslims. See, America needs a Richard the Lionheart. Instead, we have Mitt Romney. So what do you think all the complaints about Mitt Romney are? He's a milquetoast. He's a milquetoast, that's all. I don't say he's not a nice guy. You always have to say, buddy's a nice guy. Well, that's his failing. He's a nice guy. Nice guys don't finish last. They don't finish at all. He's another fall guy. They're setting him up again to fall because the Council on Foreign Relations has decided Hillary Clinton's the next president, period. Look what they're running. Take a look at the three choices they're going to give you. Okay? Diet Mitch, Diet Jeb, or Diet Blimp from New Jersey, whose name I forget. I forget his name. Three of the most unattractive white males you could ever pick to be president are running against a woman who's fierce and vicious. Unfortunately, she's not on our side. She's on the other side. That's the problem. But America is dying for a king warrior crusader. That explains why American Sniper is the most popular movie of modern times. What do you think it grossed $100 million for? Because we'd like a sniper to run for president, to be our king warrior crusader, to save this country before it's too late. Right? Am I wrong about that or am I right about that? Of course I'm right about that. When I'm on, I'm on. And I'm rarely off. Because when I'm off, I don't go on the air. See, when I'm off the air. When I don't feel like I can focus, I'm off the air. So I go into military history, and there's an article on jihad, war to the knife, by Richard Gabriel. It's short. Don't tune out now. Don't be a Hollywood idiot. Tune in. Turn on, tune in, and don't drop out. Okay? Turn on, tune into the Savage Nation, and don't drop out. Focus before you become a slave. Jihad, war to the knife, one paragraph or two. Can you handle this? Here's what he writes. It's unfortunate that in today's world, the Arabic word jihad is most directly associated with heinous terrorist acts committed by Islamic extremists who either don't know or don't care about the word's origin and true meaning. The doctrine of jihad, or holy war, was Muhammad's principal military legacy. It is indisputable that divinely justified warfare became a force of major importance during the early Islamic period, was a significant motivator for the Muslim conquest that followed Muhammad's death in 632, and remains a primary characteristic of Islamic warfare. Pre-Islamic Arabia knew no notion of ideology of any sort, and certainly no notion of religiously sanctioned war. Pre-Islamic Arab warfare was directly linked to the economic and social circumstances of pasturage, material wealth, and prestige, and was characterized by looting, raiding, and clan and tribal blood feuds. The idea of warfare as Allah's command, rewarded by martyrdom and swift transport to paradise, was an innovation with no precedent in Arab culture, custom, or practice, brought about entirely by Muhammad's thinking and influence on events. That's the end of that piece. You can keep writing on that if you want in your own head, because your head's not going to stop right there. Because it's animating an entire generation of morons, uneducated dolts who still think they're going to go to heaven to rape 64 virgins for killing in this world. How can you build a religious doctrine upon child rape? I don't understand that. How does anyone take this? How do they say that that's acceptable? To brainwash young boys that they get to rape 64 infants in the next world. I don't understand this. Maybe you can help me understand it. Maybe you will follow Michael Moore's movies against hamburgers. I want to again go back to the massacre of Meligalos in Greece in 1944, when there was a civil war between the communists and the nationalists of Greece. That September, in the most polarizing atrocity of the civil war in Greece, communist guerrillas rounded up 50 nationalist soldiers and more than 1,000 villagers and butchered them to the last man, woman, and child. Those were Greek communists following the murderous, bloodthirsty ideology of communism and killing fellow Greeks, the way the Muslims are doing today in Iraq and Syria. So I rest my case. Now, I want to finish my thought of what's going to happen. I was thinking very deeply about it last night. I know what's going to happen. I figured it out. We're going to win, not them. That's number one. I'm not sitting here shaking. See, I read Shakespeare. If you tickle him, does he not laugh? Remember he said, if you tickle me, do I not laugh? Remember that when he talks about vengeance? That great soliloquy of Shakespeare, that ancient white male who's not as good as 50 Cent, I realize, in the command of the English language, but he tried the best he could. That old Englishman in the 16th century. He wasn't as good as 50 Cent, I get it. He didn't have gold in his teeth. But in his own way, old Willie Shakespeare tried the best he could. So in the great soliloquy of To Be or Not to Be, the character says, when he's picked upon, he says, am I not human? If you tickle me, do I not laugh? Right? If you cut me, do I not bleed? Right? So, see, that's my answer to the whole jihad thing. You tickle them, they'll laugh. And if you cut them, they'll bleed just like you. See, they're human. They're not Supermen. The Nazis also thought they were Supermen. They picked on America. They said, those Americans. All they want to do is eat hot dogs and go to the Yankees and Yankee Stadium and dance, listen to music, Benny Goodman. They're not going to fight us. The Supermen trained in the Hitler Youth in the ideology of fascism under Adolf Hitler, the bloodthirsty fascism. They're going to devastate the American soldier. Well, who won? Every man defeated Superman. Same thing here. There are no Supermen on Earth. We all bleed. We all laugh. So as they gain territory, follow the bouncing ball now, right now. Follow the bouncing ball. As the jihadists continue to, in their blitzkrieg, now gaining pieces of Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, they think that they're on the road to conquering the world. What they don't realize is that at some point, they're going to get a president in America with the guts to save the country and save the Western world. We're going to have a Richard the Lionhearted become a president. We'll put aside the panty waists who've run this country off the rails. I love Panetta. Oh, they're going to be struck any day now. Came out of his mansion there in Monterey. Former CIA, former defense secretary. Oh, they're here. They're going to hit us. Dianne Feinstein. Oh, it's very likely they're going to hit us one day. Every one of the schmucks in Washington who we've entrusted to protect us tell us we're going to get struck. Wow, that's really great. Richard the Lionheart would know how to stop this. King, warrior, crusader. Richard the Lionheart would know how to stop the Muslims right now in this country and everywhere else. Right now. Right now, not tomorrow. Not after many of us are going to be decimated. Right now. He wouldn't sit here waiting like a panty waist for these sleeper cells to strike. What are they shaking from? Who are they afraid of? Michael Moore and Harvey Weinstein? And a group of psychotics in San Francisco march around with pipes on their arms and scream, hey, hey, how, Western civilization has got to go? So that's my view of what's coming. They're going to overreach and they're going to be nuked. No, not under Obama. No, not under Romney, because he's not going to be president. Not under, it could happen under Hillary yet, by the way. She's liable to do it faster than the blimp or Jeb Mush. What a choice we have. Jeb Mush or Mitch Romney. What a real choice. Choose Diet Romney or Diet Bush or Diet, I don't even know, Diet Christie. No, we don't want diet men running for office. Give me a Lionheart. Give me a King Warrior Crusader, Richard the Lionheart. That's what we need right now because we're facing a jihad. I just read that to you from the history of the world, from people who know a lot more than your history teacher knows. The brainwashed fools who supposedly pass for history teachers. I just read it to you. Do I have to read it to you again of where jihad comes from? War to the Knife by Richard Gabriel in the Military History magazine. The doctrine of jihad or holy war is Muhammad's principal military legacy. And what is it built upon? Religiously sanctioned war. So these maniacs are willing to kill boys in Iraq and throw them, machine gun them as they did 2 days ago for watching soccer because that's all in the name of Allah. You hear this? Do you realize how insane this is? This is not Arabic. Arabs don't behave that way. This is a mania based upon a myth, built upon a fantasy, built upon insanity. That's what I'm saying to you. Who does this in this world? Well, you say, we stopped. When Hitler was killing innocent people like the Jews in the beginning, no one did anything. Same thing all over again. History repeating itself. Only how many times do I have to tell you? Here's the part that galls me the most. I have to say this in a way, almost like I'm speaking in translation, because if I say it in direct English, I could lose my radio show. So make believe I'm about to speak in a dialect and there's an English translation, and you're going to translate it into reality from what I'm about to tell you. Weinstein and Company, Katzenberg, Matzenberg, Ratzenberg, New York Times, that whole cadre, that group of leftists, those psychotic America haters are the reason we can't fight the war. They have polluted the media, they have polluted the news, they have polluted the universities, they have poisoned the mind of America where it can almost not function. It's paralyzed. And the paradox is that if you ask these people that I just named and their fellow travelers, what would you have done if you had the power you have now in the 1930s while the Jews were being exterminated in Germany? Oh, I would have stood up. I would have done whatever I had to do. I would have bombed those railway lines going into Auschwitz. I would have stopped the shipments to Hitler. Yeah, you would have done a lot, wouldn't you, Harvey? Why aren't you doing a lot now, Harvey? They're massacring and slaughtering, but what?